Hello everyone, Grant Scarborough here, and I wanted to try something a little different today compared to my usual major videos, that being a video review. More specifically, well, you already saw the title and thumbnail for this video. I've been eagerly awaiting this documentary series since it was first announced, and to say that this was quite the treat would be a gross understatement. First, though, let's see what said series is all about. Prehistoric Planet follows the lives of non-avian dinosaurs and other Mesozoic life at the tail end of the era, some 66 million years ago, rather than taking the route of some previous paleo documentaries where there's a linear story and there are either one or two protagonists, often of differing species within the same ecosystem. This series has a storytelling approach much more akin to some recent BBC nature documentaries, such as Planet Earth, its sequel, and likely the upcoming third installment, where multiple regions of the planet are visited, albeit all within the late Maastrichtian. Speaking of Planet Earth, each episode is themed around a vague type of biome, those being, in order of episode, coasts, deserts, freshwater, ice worlds, and forests. Additionally, this is one of the few paleo documentaries, at least that I know of, where the man, the legend himself, Sir David Attenborough, is the narrator. Fun fact, Attenborough was actually approached to be the narrator of Walking with Dinosaurs during its production. The other Walking with Dinosaurs? Thank you. However, he turned down the offer due to his unwillingness to support a fictitious wildlife documentary that utilized CGI and hefty speculation, leading to Kenneth Branagh getting the role instead. Attenborough is not the only notable name attached to Prehistoric Planet, since we also have the likes of Jon Favreau of MCU fame as one of the producers, Hans Zimmer, yes, that Hans Zimmer, as one of the composers alongside Anze Rosman and Kara Talv, and some consultants who are very notable in the paleontology community nowadays, such as Dr. Scott Hartman, Dr. Mark Whitten, and David Krentz, who was also one of Dinosaur Revolution's two directors. The non-avian dinosaurs and other extinct creatures here are designed to best fit the latest research, or at least what was the latest research when production on the series began, but I'll discuss that in more detail later.
Yes! Oh, yes! Yes!
Alright, I'll go into more detail than just that. Starting with the visuals, they are goddamn gorgeous, and it's not just because CGI technology has advanced drastically in the almost 25 years since Walking with Dinosaurs was released, but also because the people behind this series did something that few other paleo documentaries outside of the 1999 classic and its contemporaries did, that being the combination of said CGI with a handful of practical effects to provide a more convincing realism to the extinct fauna. It's what has allowed the special effects of Walking with Dinosaurs, the first Jurassic Park, and similar media to still partially hold up all these decades later, even with their scientific inaccuracies. It's not just visuals where the presentation of this series shines. Remember how I mentioned both Attenborough and Zimmer were involved? Yeah, they're both, as well as Rosman and Talv, giving their A-game here.
And their young certainly need protection. The dagger beak of Phosphatodraco.
Going back to the science itself, we not only see the extinct fauna in an accurate form visually, but they all exhibit behaviors that are very much akin to living species that occupy similar niches, ranging from Austroposeidon pushing down trees akin to elephants, to Nonyxsaurus hunting Pachyrhinosaurus in a vaguely wolf-like manner, to even stuff just that slightly bit more speculative, as seen with the male Carnotaurus waving its puny blue little arms around in an effort to attract a mate. The last one of these three examples especially can't be proven by the fossil record, as courtship with a species is almost impossible to tell from, well, fossils. This is what I'd like to call healthy speculation. Chances are we'll never truly know everything as to how extinct organisms lived, so we might as well utilize the day-to-day lives of modern species to fill the gaps. Prehistoric Planet is by no means the first paleo documentary to utilize this for their restorations of past fauna, but I'd argue that this one, by far, does it the best, or is at least up there. Now, I'd like to briefly touch upon my favorite segment for each episode. Starting with coasts, I was originally going to say the scene with Mosasaurus, especially with that skin cleaning bit, but I honestly have to go with the mass flight of the Alcyone. It was really interesting seeing a lack of parental care for a pterosaur species for once. That, and it felt really suspenseful, but never to the point where it felt like a cheap horror movie. Moving on to deserts, it was once again a difficult choice, but I'm going with the mass gathering of Dreadnoughtus. It's really nice to have a fight scene where it's not just two predators trying to rip each other to shreds, not the typical predator-prey face-off, or... that. Rather, we have what feels like a giant monster fight that's actually grounded in science. Most impressive indeed. Freshwater was amongst the easiest episode to choose a favorite segment from, that being the velociraptors hunting an unnamed species of pterosaur along a cliffside. While this specific genus is out of place, the reason for which I'll get into later, it's definitely a breath of fresh air to see a Mesozoic predator hunting in the mountains, something our fossil record sure as hell wouldn't preserve very well, if at all, but it's still likely to have happened. By contrast, Ice Worlds was probably the most difficult to decide on a segment to call my favorite, but I finally settled on, ironically enough, the forest fire featuring an undescribed Troodontid. Firstly, thank God they didn't call it Troodon, that genus is no longer valid. Second, the way it uses fire to catch small mammalian prey might seem somewhat of a stretch, but we already have the likes of storks hunting small prey by the edge of bushfires in African savanna, not to mention the high intellect of this theropod group, at least for the standards of non-avian theropod dinosaurs, and even reports of modern birds such as black kites, whistling kites, and brown falcons engaging in their own acts of fire spreading. Finally, for forests, it was also difficult to choose a favorite segment, and as much as I do love them all, especially the wholesome bit with Therizinosaurus, I'll go with the Triceratops in the caverns. Simply put, it feels oddly alien, yet quite plausible at the same time, not to mention its own sense of wholesomeness at the end with the youngster making it. This series has an admittedly realistic sense of baby death, but they thankfully didn't go overkill with it, as shown here. Thankfully, the number of real problems I have with Prehistoric Planet can be counted on a single hand. That said, those problems are still quite notable. There's a serious lack of balance in the creatures presented. One might think by that I'm referring to most of said species being just late Cretaceous bigwigs, such as T-Rex and Triceratops, but that's not true. In fact, I'd argue that the lesser-known creatures outnumber their popular counterparts by a nearly 2-to-1 margin. Don't believe me? Well, I got a list of all the shown genre of extinct fauna, in order of appearance, here. Rather, I feel it's the groups these genre are part of that are heavily unbalanced in terms of screen time. What do I mean by this? Well, going back to that list, we have, not including the microfauna, 4 tyrannosaurs, 1 turtle, 7 pterosaurs, 2 mosasaurs, 1 ammonite, 2 plesiosaurs, 4 sauropods, 3 dromaeosaurs, 1 alvarosaurid, 1 bird, 6 hadrosaurs, 1 therizinosaur, 2 ceratopsids, 2 ornithomimosaurs, 1 noasaurid, 1 frog, 1 troodontid, 1 mammal, 2 ankylosaurs, 1 embellosaurid, 1 oviraptorid, and 1 rhabdodontid. Yeah, I think y'all can now see the problem. This is the Maastrichtian, and yet several notable groups are either restricted to just one genus shown, or get absolutely nothing. Look, I know that pterosaur guys Mark Whitten and Michael Habib were two of this series' consultants, but allowing for 7 pterosaurs genre is just overkill when it results in groups such as the pachycephalosaurs, megaraptorans, and especially crocodilomorphs not getting any time to shine. Personally, I would have removed at least 2 of the pterosaurs in exchange for the likes of Pachycephalosaurus and Maip. Wait, the latter of those two was only validly described earlier this year. Okay then, BAM! Orcaraptor! It coexisted with Dreadnoughtus after all. I know some of you will say that genus should be extinct by now, but that actually leads into my next gripe of Prehistoric Planet. Not all of the species shown in this documentary series have been confirmed to have been present around 66 million years ago, but personally, I have a rule. If there is a genus of extinct fauna living as early as 70 million years ago, I can see them making it to the KPG boundary. Thankfully, all but 2 fall under this, those being Antarctopelta and Velociraptor. While there aren't any other late Cretaceous genre of Ankylosaur in Antarctica, there is absolutely no excuse for continuing the misconception of Velociraptor being part of the Namek Formation's fauna. This should have been Adasaurus.
End of story!
Speaking of inaccuracies, Antarctopelta is missing a unique Parankylosaur tail weapon it likely had, while Nanoxaurus is too small, but such discoveries happened when the series was already well into production, so I can somewhat let those mistakes slide. Finally, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, I wish the KPG event was shown in this. I completely understand how it's overplayed in these documentaries, but one, much akin to certain Looney Tunes shorts, it's overplayed for a damn good reason.
Eventually.
You are dead! Not big surprise!
2, this series' portrayal of the extinction event doesn't have to just show the immediate aftermath of that extraterrestrial impact, but could also show its effects in the following months or even years, something that only 2, maybe 3 other paleo documentaries have explored. Seriously though, imagine Last Day of the Dinosaurs, but with the budget of this series. It has been about a decade since we've gotten a paleo documentary this good, this well crafted, this beautiful. It definitely isn't perfect, and I've already shown why that's the case, but much akin to what many Crash Bandicoot fans say about Crash Bandicoot 4, it's about time, the love and care put into this cannot be ignored. Let's not only hope that this series will give rise to a renaissance of paleo documentaries, but also curtail the many inaccurate stereotypes that Jurassic World Dominion will likely promote. Hey y'all, before I end this, I just want to say that video reviews won't become a regular on this channel as I already have my hands full of other projects. That being said, I felt it was important to review this series in particular, not only due to how we haven't gotten a high-budget paleo documentary like this in so long, but also because it may influence my upcoming Machinima series, Paleo Park. How exactly? You'll just have to wait and see. Goodbye, everybody.